What is up, guys? Evanaldo here. Welcome back to the channel. Great to see all you guys. Let's get into a couple things here in a different location. Hopefully the echo is not too bad. Actually, let me do one quick thing to fix that. Open the window a little bit. That may help just a little bit. So yeah, let's get right into it. I'm sure you guys want to see the trades here. And here's a new one, Bitcoin long. So a lot of them are in. You can just see the profits, here. This was a real patience game because look at the realized fees here, which aren't the best, but it is what it is. It is what it is. And yeah, 93.4K, I think inevitably, as I've talked about probably the last month or so now, 102K, bigger areas I think are likely. But we'll see if we can break above that. I don't think we can, probably a typical bear market. Tesla looks pretty overheated too. We'll talk about that in a second. So yeah, and always appreciate you guys smashing the like button and leave your comments and all that down below. What's Elon doing? Yeah, I guess some good things in this. Well, they just put a new person in, so we'll see if it's probably the same type of person. I think it's a woman though, which would be better, but it's kind of kind of an illusion sometimes, so we'll see what happens. I think that U.S. markets are up a little bit. We'll see if that can last. Spoiler alert, I don't think it can. And yeah, I think this will knock us down. You got about 3 weeks, a little over 3 weeks. A pause will likely knock us down in my view here. And then you'll probably see another pause in March. And then maybe, just maybe, you'll see a cut in April. I don't know, though. I don't know. Powell might want to go out with a bang and be like, no, F you. We ain't doing no cut. No cuts, you know what I mean? Getting onto Bitcoin, this is just textbook. We've talked about this. Technical target 102. I think you'll at least get there by the 20th, by the end of this month. So I think that's, pretty much a done deal. I've been in the trades that I showed you, in the Discord. If you guys are interested in those, check out the link down below for the Discord. Look, when the market's slow, sometimes it takes time for things to play out, but, they did, they have played out, you know what I mean? They have played out, so just keep that in mind. So yeah. Excuse me. So potentially 102. Excuse me. And then Ethereum 200 daily moving average. By the time you hit that, maybe 3,500, maybe even all the way up to 3,600, depending on how long that takes. I personally don't think you're going to be able to hold 36 or 3,700. I personally don't think you're going to be able to hold 102 or 108K here. Hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's just my opinion based on previous cycles. Now let's get into this a little bit on the 2 week. The 2 week is important because you're going to have to forgive me. I want more screen space here. Now, the 2 week is important because, see this jump right? This jump right there, then you fell off. See? Bear market rally, same thing there. Let's do the math out just a little bit here. Or map this out just a little bit. So you had this was there about end of July of 18. And then here, I'm just doing it by the green dot here where the VWAP crossed. And this one was end of March. Following the pattern, 7th month, 3rd month, 4 months early. Those two. You're gonna print this probably in the next thing, maybe end of January. A couple months early would equate to an earlier bottom, earlier cycle. Now, What do we want? From this area, how long did it take to see a bottom? Let's map this out a little bit. Here it was from end of July to December. So that was about, 5 months. Here, a little bit longer, but if you include that, a little bit shorter. I mean, if it's like this last one, which maybe it would be like this last one. I don't see a reason to believe it can't be. That's going to be end of May. That's the earliest. Probably the latest would be here would be September, October, in my opinion. That's what we're looking at. We want some better deals here. I want to get a better deal than 100K or 93K. Ethereum, I think it can hold up very well against Bitcoin based on how ETH versus Bitcoin looks, based on general quantitative easing coming back very slowly. So I think it could hold up pretty well. If you were to compare something like this, I think you generally, maybe you're like right here and you could keep going, or maybe a little bit earlier, 2019, 2020 vibes, that type of situation. But I think ETH has got a good shot, unless something, really surprises us and really turns into a relic here. I think ETH can keep outperforming Bitcoin. Avalanche, I would be a little bit cautious with alts in general right now. I want to see which ones can outperform Bitcoin over the next 4 to 6 months. That's going to be the big thing here. And let's look at AVAX Bitcoin, for example, and see if, just keeps bleeding. I don't know if that's a convincing enough bottom. I mean, you saw a lot of these potential green dots here. Probably a lot of people, including myself, till August, thought that would be done. We'd keep going up. No, not quite. Went down farther. So we'll see what happens. I do think some of these could show strength against Bitcoin. Keep in mind, that could happen in a bear market too. Everything could go down, So if everything goes down against the USD pair, you don't necessarily want it. That's what we got to keep in mind here. I don't know why I wanted to look at my new real estate futures. That coming up a little bit more. Nice little recovery here, I guess. We'll see what happens with that. I wouldn't be extremely hopeful. But I do think, what's interesting is real estate this year may show a little bit, just a little bit of strength against S&P 500. Kind of like it did in 2022, 2021, 22. You may be due for just a little bit. 2018 as well. Keep that in mind. Real estate did show some strength. 2014 as well. So notice that 4-year cycle pattern here. Real estate could show, these more stable things could show a little bit of strength. So yeah, Tesla I wanted to look at because I've been more bearish on this. I know people are talking about 600 or whatever. Maybe it will. I don't know. But I can't be that bullish with the 3-week looking like it is. I can't be overly, optimistic on this, with it looking the way it looks. You know what I mean? That looks like it wants to come down. I feel like the Elon Musk all over social media, now worth $700 billion. That makes me think, and obviously net worth is tied to this a lot. 50% correction, I don't know. Definitely doable with Tesla. The pattern a lot of times is a slightly higher high than you kind of nuke. Well, that stuff already gets factored in. Maybe it will jump up though, I don't know. Triple Q here. If we look at the daily, a slight jump. I don't know if she's really got it in her. I think it's going to eventually roll over here. Probably by the end of this month. I think Powell may knock us down. Look at that daily too. Obviously, here was the last time. It's looking like clockwork compared to early 25 in some ways. Sideways a while, then you came down. My guess is it'll play out a little bit quicker this time. You could argue, most of the time when you come into the red here, you do see a little bit of relief. Came into the red there, into the red there, came into the red there, but 2022 not so much. These bear market years, that was January, and look at this. So let's say it's kind of a not as bad version, not as bad version of that. It's still a pretty good correction here. Probably would get some recessionary fears up. I don't know if you're going to go down to freaking, I want you to go down. It's a good deal if it goes down 20, 30%. Maybe less. We'll see what happens. if you look at, we haven't messed with this area in a while. If we were to go down to, I don't know, 470, 20 to 30% downward, you could hit that middle of this year, it's possible. I would think low fives, these areas. I think it's likely that you're going to see some turbulence this year, definitely. Gold and silver, we'll see what happens here. You're trying to make a recovery for silver. I don't know if you're going to get quite back to that level and make a new high. I don't know. I would guess that you're going to see a 20 to 30% correction this year. Same with gold there. Looking like you may have one more jump up, but we'll see. Maybe over the next few weeks. I mean, I can't imagine a scenario where Powell doesn't try to knock gold and silver down at the next FOMC meeting. I mean, this is going insane. You know what I mean? Like, I can't imagine that type of scenario. People talk about Undo. A lot of these coins, for some reason, I don't know why. I always think about Ordi when I say Undo, because it's like a kind of a similar, come on. Speaking of things that only go down, nice jump up there. I mean, the 2-week, there's some relief. The fear on a lot of these is, what if this happens? This it's a slight problem, so let's just keep that in mind. Bitcoin dominance, though, in terms of, Bitcoin dominance, in terms of what, I would say generally a little bit more bearish, and you could stay bearish. You could stay bearish on this. You may jump around a little bit. We'll see what happens. That's Bitcoin dominance. Trying to think what else there is here. There's others versus Bitcoin. And that's going to be, trying to jump up there. And it generally could keep going. What does this tell us? I mean, does this tell us, buy altcoins right now? I mean, not necessarily, because, you look at some of these areas, you were in bear markets through here, and it still came up. So not necessarily, not yet. But having some exposure to ETH, I think, makes a lot of sense. I think that's kind of your safest bet now. So yeah, and always appreciate you guys smashing the like button. Check out the deal for BloFin, 20% off your fees for life in the pin chat. And yeah, I mean, here's the trades, 11K up in profit, 12, that makes it 12K. So it's on BloFin and tap it right there. Or excuse me, BitFi and tap it. Check them out if you guys are interested. It's good to see movement. I'll say that. It's good to see movement in these markets. Trigger wave forming on the 3-week. That's the interesting thing here too, because it was trying to form back in this area, and you didn't quite. Let's look at that on the all-time history index, because that's interesting. Because look, if you look at, this is a potential area for a bottom. If you look at that trigger wave, didn't quite form there. That was pretty good in 2020. I mean, because some may argue this is just keep us going more, but the same thing didn't quite. Yeah, that's the thing. I think it actually may print and form this time and then kind of roll over, because that would equate to kind of diminished returns. So keep that in mind. So yeah, I mean, it's just, it's generally a situation that trends up with time. And then look at this red X there, a big drop downward. I mean, that's kind of what we would compare it to. Even this, 2014 in some ways. And that's interesting. It was September. This one was May. So notice the pattern a little bit earlier, about 5 months earlier. This one was January, about 4 or 5 months earlier. So in this one, was December. So 2 months or 1 month earlier. So a little bit different. But if we map these out, let's just see how long it took each time. Let's map this out. That's similar area. So it's a little bit longer there. You know, I guess it gets a little bit longer each time. You know, it doesn't have to play out like that, but yeah, that would be August. If it's a little bit longer than that, that would be October. Could take some time. Definitely could take some time. I don't know. I mean, I would guess October maybe, you know, somewhere between May and October. I think May is where the good deals start to get there. You know what I mean? So let's just keep that in mind. Triple Q right here. Talked about a few of these. And the S&P 500, let's take a look. I mean, maybe one more jump up, maybe one more all-time high, you know, over the next week to 2 weeks, and then you kind of face more reality here and kind of come down. Well, I was just lost, but yeah, bear div on the monthly. I mean, obviously this played out pretty well. They usually play out pretty well, like bear divs on the monthly on this. You know, okay, that wasn't a bear div. I mean, I wouldn't really consider that to be one. But like right there, you know what I mean? Some of these do are that larger kind of situation. I mean, that was pandemic. They don't happen too often, but if you look at this kind of drop, you know, something of that nature, you know, it's something. Down to 530. I mean, probably a lot of panic. If you do see a 20% correction for this, maybe 30% for the NASDAQ, you know, that's what we would be looking for. That's what we'd be definitely looking for. You know, I think a higher low from this low of April 25 makes a lot of sense. I would say maybe your best case scenario is 600, but we'll see. And obviously anything could happen. And then you have this Solana kind of coming up, some of these coins. Take a look, see here. Say what you want about Cardano, still making higher lows. I mean, these don't look that bad, you know. Some of them don't. We'll have to see what happens. I mean, of course, everything's going to look kind of good now since it's coming up. I could see it coming up to 45 cents. We'll see if that can continue. You know, maybe it can, maybe it can't, you know. Others versus Bitcoin trying to come up there. And then we look at others itself. And then jump. So people have talked about this. It does look kind of good right now. We'll see. Yeah, we'll definitely have to see if that can continue. Always appreciate you guys smashing the like button. And check out the Discord down below. We post a lot of good stuff in there. We got Nightshade in there. So yeah. It's gold going upward. So yeah, and if we look at, let's just go back to regular, you know, Bitcoin Coinbase. Bitcoin Coinbase. Let's look at hourly. I mean, you're above 200 hourly SMA. You know, it looks strong. You know, you broke above. You know, if you look at that like 5 hour there, I mean, it's been choppy, but yeah, probably at least 102. And get people a little bit excited, and then, you know, we shall see. We shall see. Right there. Right to that point, that daily 102. That's what I'm kind of looking at there. Uniswap people have talked about, but this is just a snooze fest. I don't know if I'd mess with I mean, theoretically, you know, it's just wild. Some of these alts do look better than Bitcoin right now. I mean, yeah. Chainlink, I mean, it has made higher lows. It's probably bled so much on its freaking, you know, ETH and Bitcoin evaluations. Let's take a look. I mean, maybe you got something here. I don't know if that looks the best, though. Against Bitcoin, I mean, maybe the wick down, maybe you got something. We'll see. You know, definitely see that freaking Binance scam wick. Let's look at some news articles a little bit. Or that was the Fox Business one. Yeah, oil. It's all about money, about oil. I wonder if that's actually true. Six decades leading the company, Buffett has stepped down. I can't believe it. Yeah, CNBC, this has got to be so exaggerated. Here's where it just gets too frickin', yeah. This is, yeah. Unless he could buy it in some way, but I don't think. You're not in the area where the U.S., in this point of history, where the U.S. is going to get more land. That's not really how it works, you know. I mean, I feel like Venezuela went as well as it could have, you know. There could be some embarrassments coming, well, especially when Trump is gone. This is probably huge because it's a pill, yeah, GLP-1. Yeah, you just take a pill, you don't have to inject anything. That's huge. And then 300 a month, which is nothing. I mean, yeah. I forget what, yeah, that company, Novo Nordisk. That's just, yeah. I mean, this is kind of like modern day, probably what this will do to, because you got to realize, especially if this works, and I guess we don't know, but yeah, if this works, I mean, that life expectancy should go up 5 to 10 years, I would think. Because a lot of people die mainly because of obesity, and then you get a heart attack. So, you know, and that probably happens in your 70s a lot of times, 60s, you know. Did they still cancel the, yeah, it's gonna be, that is interesting, yeah, the airspace there. Anyway. I mean, FTs actually are up 30%, but we'll see if that can last. I don't think it can. You know, I just think where you are kind of in all this, it's not, I don't know if you're going to get that freaking, you know, I mean, the riskier stuff, I don't know if you're going to get there anytime soon. We just got to see how this plays out. Because that 2 week too, I mean, confirmed right there, and then you just fell off a damn cliff, you know. I would think you can make a higher low on this, like 1800. That's what I'd be looking for, you know, come August, come May, June, July, like, you know, early summer months. Yeah, this trend kind of dropped down there. In this cycle, you know, April, you had that jump up, kind of what you're seeing, and then that was the worst part of the freaking bear market. But, you know, it would be much less here if that does. I would argue maybe like half of this. Let's see. And then, yeah, 1800. That would be kind of my view on Ethereum. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, what, if you had 10, you know, if you had 10 Ethereum, and Ethereum is at, you know, 10K, that's 100K. So you need 20 or so Ethereum by the end of the decade if you get up to like 10, 15K, I guess. 10K I would be hopeful on, 3X from here. You know, let's say Bitcoin can do 1,880K by the end of the decade, you know. I would say at least you can get there, hopefully. So a double for Bitcoin, triple for ETH maybe would make sense. I don't know what this chart would look like at that point, but yeah. So we'll definitely have to see there. Yeah, that would be the main view there. I can't believe this is bizarre. It's like a stable coin. They're just doing it for advertising. Get your HELOCs. Oh yeah, Kronos I've not looked at. I'm just curious about crypto. Crypto.com. Yeah, I mean, from that low, I mean, you're trying. I mean, yeah, you're trying something here. If people think, this year can be, it's just bizarre because you're looking at like such an overdue, NASDAQ correction, all that. And I don't know if these can hold up in that situation. Maybe they can because, there's just no one cares about them anymore. So, yeah. I don't know. This probably wasn't the best time to do a live stream. Maybe I'll do something again later. So we'll see. But yeah, I wanted to look at, if we look at like Bitcoin versus SPY, I guess, obviously looking kind of, similar in some ways. Yeah, this is a 2-week green hike in Ashi, similar to that area, 75, similar to, I would argue over here, over the one of these. You had some jumps in 2018. And it could be sideways for a bit, and then hopefully you'd want to rip the Band-Aid off quicker, but it took 1, 2 there, 1, 2, 3 there, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, what's your discount on the SPY right now? 33% downward. So yeah. I think the last thing, obviously, I think that. Yeah, I think the monthly on this is kind of a no-brainer when you get like a trigger wave or something there. Yeah, that was November 23 right there. After that blood diamond, so I would think, that was pretty good there. April 2019. I mean, this is a later one, January 23. But when you get that, probably pretty good, I would say. Bitcoin versus gold. Let's take a look-see here. That's the same thing. Yeah, I mean, that's a 3-week. Probably not this one, probably the next one or the one after. That's what's interesting on the monthly too, because I kind of don't think it's going to be the next monthly. I think it could be the one after. Maybe like over here. Well, no, that was okay, but yeah, it's just what we got to keep in mind there. Anyway, guys, I think I'm going to get going. I want you guys to smash the like button. To reiterate, I think we're going to go up, keep going. I'm excited. I'm watching this. Look at these trades, man. Look at these trades. We are 13K, in profits on that one. And then this is probably like 14K. So big payday. Really appreciate